The hum of the shooting range echoed with laughter, clinking brass, and the sharp crack of rifles. Yet in the corner, a man stood unnoticed. His faded baseball cap bore the insignia of a military unit, his flannel shirt patched at the elbows. He was a single dad, a veteran, and though his eyes carried the weight of wars most would never understand, today they carried something heavier: silence. He had walked in with his young daughter clutching his hand, her smile small but hopeful. "Daddy, you used to be the best, right?" she whispered. He only nodded, trying not to let her see how the other shooters barely glanced his way. Some smirked at his worn-out boots, others scoffed at the old rifle case he carried. To them, he was just another has-been, someone with stories but no relevance. At the far end of the range, the local champion held court, surrounded by admirers. His scores glowed on the digital board, near perfect, untouched. Every eye watched him, every cheer was for him. No one noticed the little girl sitting on the bench, swinging her legs, waiting for her dad's turn. When it finally came, whispers rippled. "That relic." Someone muttered, eyeing the veteran's rifle. It was scratched, old-fashioned, decades away from the sleek competition rifles shining under the lights. Even the range officer raised an eyebrow, as if expecting him to fail before he'd even started. The veteran said nothing. He simply set the rifle down, adjusted his stance, and for a brief moment he closed his eyes. His daughter's voice echoed in his memory, a reminder of who he was, of nights under desert skies, of silence broken by duty. He breathed in. The range went quiet. Then, crack, the first shot slammed into the target, the sound sharper than the rest. The board lit up. A perfect shot. Gasps filled the room. The champion's record had stood for years, but with a single bullet it had been shattered. The veteran didn't smirk, didn't boast. He simply reloaded. Crack, another bullseye and another. Each shot was a reminder greatness doesn't fade, it waits. By the end, the digital board told a story no one expected. The ignored man had not only beaten the champion, he had set a new standard none thought possible. The range fell silent, until the smallest voice broke it. "That's my dad," his daughter shouted, eyes glowing with pride. Suddenly, the whispers turned into applause. The same people who had mocked him now stood in awe. Even the champion stepped forward, offered his hand, and said quietly, "Sir, that was incredible." But the veteran only knelt beside his daughter, placed the rifle back in its case, and smiled. "I just wanted you to know," he told her softly, "that no matter what people say, you should never forget who you are, or what you're capable of." The crowd expected him to stay, to bask in the recognition, but he simply walked out, hand in hand with his little girl. For him, the victory wasn't the record. It was the pride shining in his daughter's eyes. And in that moment, the range learned a lesson they'd never forget. Respect isn't about trophies or applause. Sometimes, the quietest man in the room carries the loudest truth, that true strength lies in humility, love, and the courage to rise even when no one is watching. Imagine this. A crowded shooting range, buzzing with excitement. The air filled with the sharp cracks of gunfire, the smell of gunpowder, and voices cheering for one man, the local champion. Everyone's eyes were glued to him. His sleek, custom-built rifle gleamed under the lights, his record flashing proudly on the digital scoreboard. But in the corner, almost invisible, stood someone else, a man wearing a faded baseball cap, an old flannel shirt with frayed elbows, and boots that had seen better days. He wasn't surrounded by fans. He wasn't admired. He was ignored. This man was a single dad, a veteran, a man who had given his youth to serve his country, but now was treated like he didn't belong. Beside him sat his daughter, no older than 8. Her small hand clutched his, her big brown eyes full of hope. "Daddy," she whispered, "you used to be the best, right?" The veteran didn't answer with words. He just gave a gentle smile, the kind that hides both pride and pain. Because deep down he knew, to her, he was already the best. But to the world, he was just another forgotten soldier. When his name was finally called, the whispers began. "That old rifle. You've got to be kidding. Man, he looks like he walked out of a thrift store. Bet he won't even hit the target." The champion smirked, leaning back, confident no one could touch his record. Even the range officer sighed, as if already certain this man would fail. The veteran walked slowly to the firing line, his step steady, deliberate. He opened his battered rifle case. Inside was no shiny modern weapon. It was an old military rifle, scratched, heavy, worn. The kind of rifle that had history. The kind of rifle that had stories. The crowd laughed under their breath. But the little girl, she sat up taller, her legs swinging with excitement. Her daddy was about to show the world who he really was. 2. The veteran placed the rifle on the stand. He didn't rush. He didn't boast. He simply closed his eyes, and for a moment the noise of the world disappeared. In his mind, he was back in the desert, the air dry and still, his brothers beside him, his duty clear.